Chapter 9, The Messenger Manifesto, or The Great Industry Reset. The expert industry is amidst a sea change. New technologies and marketing strategies are allowing both legends and up-and-coming gurus to amplify their message more quickly and broadly than any of us could have ever imagined. Customers are demanding greater value, more free content, and higher levels of access to and interaction with experts through social media. The old ways of making money in the industry, from relying solely on book sales or holding pitch-a-thon seminars, are either dead or dying. In a world of instant celebrity and worldwide broadcasting at the push of a button, there is more competition for eyeballs in business. Creating a fan base is at once easier with social media, but harder when everyone now has fans. The big names that led the expert community for decades are making way for a new generation of gurus. There are both positive and negative implications to all of this, but one thing is resoundingly positive. Content is king, and the new kings of the economy will be the content creators. The world is looking for us for new ideas and how-to information that can improve lives and grow businesses. It is an incredibly exciting, lucrative, and meaningful time to be an author, speaker, seminar leader, coach, consultant, and online marketer. I felt this energy in a very palpable way at my live Experts Academy events. But underneath all of the opportunity and energy, there's also a great industry reset taking place. Part of this is because of technology, and part of this is because the old guard is quickly aging and retiring. The main reason for the great shift, though, is coming from the fact that a few leaders of the expert community are finally thinking of it as an industry. For the first time ever, people who give advice and how-to information out to the world and profit from it are actually rethinking of what they do as a career in a real industry. It seems lately that I've been taking both praise and jeers for leading this shift. Perhaps I deserve both. Some have said I'm doing a great job championing the charge. Others have questioned my right to do so. Some have cheered my transparency about how the industry works. Others say I talk too candidly about specific gurus' business practices. Some say I was too brash and audacious in creating the new Experts Industry Association. Others say it was about time. And for the record, I believe they're all right. To give the backstory and share some perspective on the industry reset and my role in it, let's look at specifically at 6 ways the industry is shifting and why. The first 3 changes have to do with how our community interacts internally. The last 3 ways have to do with how the industry faces outward towards our customers. An internal revolution. The shift inside our community has been, to many newbies, subtle. But the results are gathering like a tidal wave and are forever changing the nature of how we do business and help our customers. 3 shifts are driving this change. Reset number 1, from silos to sharing. When I was a human performance and organizational development consultant at Accenture, the world's largest consulting company, I learned an invaluable lesson that's helping me and others explain and lead the shift in the expert community. During my time there, I witnessed massive organizational change efforts at many of the top retailers in the world, including JCPenney, eBay, Best Buy, Nordstrom, Levi's, Walgreens. Many of these change efforts either succeeded or failed based on how well teams within the organization worked together and shared information and best practices from other businesses within the retail industry. I've since come to believe that you can take any business or industry in the world that does not collaborate well or share best practices and improve its earning potential by a factor of 10 in 18 months or less, simply by helping it do so. With this belief in place, to say my mind was blown when I entered the expert industry would be an understatement. To my complete shock, almost no one in the community was really sharing best practices in how they spread their messages or built their businesses. The industry was disconnected, and almost no one knew what worked across businesses and consumer groups. It was mystifying to me. So I started asking many of the top experts in the world why this was the case. They were incredibly frank and giving in my interviews. Three themes began to emerge that could explain why the industry had been so in the dark and disconnected from itself. First, we have to understand that the expert community is comprised of entrepreneurs who mostly work from home and alone, with no employees, no coworkers, no managers, and no regular contact with their peers. It's easy to see why they don't feel part of a larger community. They are truly solopreneurs. As an employee in traditional organizational America, your peers are around you every day from 8 to 5. You see them at their desks, in meetings, at the water cooler, and at annual conferences. It's easy to consider yourself part of something larger because you're around so many people. And when you're around people at work, you tend to casually share what's working and what's not. But experts do not have that experience. They are often toiling alone, creating their content like artists do. Though their lives may be seemingly public while they are sharing their information in books or on stage or on the web, the opposite is often true. Their lives are quite private, even isolated. In fact, the more popular they become, the more barriers are built around them to guarantee or protect their privacy. Worse, without regular connection and communication with their peers, experts end up reinventing the wheel over and over. No one knows what works. No one knows what doesn't work. Everyone is adrift, trying to figure out how to get their message out there in a bigger way. All this leads to an industry that does not see itself. Our members do not consider themselves connected or part of the same whole, despite the fact we are all essentially doing the same thing, marketing our advice, knowledge, and how-to information to consumers and organizations. That's why I become a sort of ambassador for the expert community as one of the first to publicly and consistently emphasize that we are a real industry. To be fair, there are organizations within the industry that have attempted to bring people together. The challenge is that these organizations also approach the industry as a set of silos. There are writing conferences and associations for writers, a speaker association for speakers, coaching associations for coaches, and so on. The challenge in chopping up the industry this way is that experts rarely learn the multiple skill sets they need to earn multiple streams of income. If you are just an author and don't know anything about speaking, seminars, coaching, consulting, and online marketing, then you are boxing in your message and you're leaving millions of dollars on the table. A speaker who does not understand online marketing is doomed to a life on the road away from family. Coaches who do not know how to monetize their knowledge through books suffer, and so on. That's why I decided to start Experts Academy in the first place. I wanted to share the industry's best practices across silos for authors, speakers, seminar leaders, coaches, consultants, and online marketers. I've done that successfully for years, but decided to take it to the next level with the creation of the Experts Industry Association. Rather than just hosting a one-time seminar, I wanted to bring together the entire community on an annual basis. I also wanted to create something beyond me. Experts Academy is mine, but Experts Industry Association is ours. It's an organization that's not about me, though I'm one of its founders, but rather about all of us. We're going to get together each year, share best practices, build bonds, set new standards, honor our heroes, share monthly content with each other, and empower new generations to succeed. I'll likely get a lot of flack for having the audacity to start such an association, but I think it's time we all came together. Almost every industry in the world gathers to see how they can set new standards and grow their industry. Why not us? The second reason we've been such a disconnected and individualistic industry, many experts fear one another. It's ironic that a community that prides itself on helping people overcome fear is so fearful of its own members. Experts are notoriously terrified that someone else will, quote, steal their idea, unquote. In this way, I would argue that this is one of the most fearful industries in the world outside of the inventor community. Another industry, by the way, that never grew up and considered itself a real industry. The misfortune of this reality is that so many experts hold their information and business practices so close to the chest that no one is learning from anyone else. Everyone is constantly reinventing the wheel or throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks. Outside of a few elite and often inaccessible and outrageously expensive mastermind groups, experts rarely share their best ideas about the business with one another. They are irrationally fearful that someone will rip off their training content or marketing strategy. While any business person can understand a desire to protect proprietary ideas, the level of fear in our community has hurt us. It's hurt us for decades, and it will continue to do so unless we change our approach. If we don't start sharing what we know openly, how will we, as a collective group of experts, ever advance our industry? My personal belief about sharing information stems from this metaphor. If you never let the baby out of your arms, it can never go out in the world and grow up. I believe that any idea I have can only get bigger and better as it's exposed to the world. While the amount of training I put out in the world is staggering, I found that more people use it and buy it than blatantly steal it. Besides, with the ease of search and social media available to us these days, I would certainly find out or hear about anyone illegally using my content. It happens all the time. Here's the number one reason I don't fear thieves and openly share everything anyway. I know I'm a creator. Even if someone did steal all of my training ideas and content today, I'm confident that I can create new information tomorrow. Experts are students and creators, and we can always create more useful information as we learn. Let's go further. It's not just a worry that our content will be stolen. Everyone fears their marketing strategy will be stolen. But who cares? Knockoffs and copies never do well anyway. It's time that we all admit that sharing our business models and marketing ideas will only help all of us do better in the marketplace. And the better we all do, the better our community will be perceived. I personally want others to model best practices so our reputation as an expert community grows. It makes sense, right? Well, many of the old guard failed to look outside of themselves to the future of the industry, and that's why we got ourselves in this mess in the first place. This is my most controversial observation, and I know I will continue to be accused of many things for making this assertion. But the facts are the facts. Gurus have failed to groom new gurus. This is evident in so many ways. Tens of thousands of people have failed trying to start in this industry because there have been no collective wisdom shared openly about what it takes to succeed from the senior leaders who have done it. There's been no roadmap. If you want to start a real estate business, there are hundreds of books on the shelf about how to do so. But how many books have you seen like this one, like The Millionaire Messenger? Why is it this is the only book to really address the expert space as a real career and a real industry with best practices that anyone can follow to get ahead? Lack of general consumer information and training about our industry says a lot, and what it says is not positive. Nothing is more evident of the gurus do not groom assertion than what I call the open bench. In every Fortune 500 company in the world, there's always talk of a succession plan. A plan for new leaders to emerge when the current leaders leave their jobs or retire. There are plans in place to groom the next generation of leaders, talent and skill development plans, mentoring programs, and so on. Corporate managers and executives are always told to share how they got where they are. The same thing happens in sports. You've got the A players out there, but on the bench, the B players are being groomed and waiting to step up. But where is the bench in the expert community? Think about it. Who in the personal development arena will be the next Tony Robbins? Who is the next Wayne Dyer? What happens when Oprah retires? Who's in line behind Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson in spirituality? David Bach, David Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, and Susie Orman in personal finance. John Gray and John Gottman in relationships. Gary Hamel and Clayton Christensen in innovation. Seth Godin and J. Conrad Levinson in marketing. Rick Warren and Joel Osteen in religion. John Maxwell and Warren Bennis in leadership. Brian Tracy and Jeffrey Gitomer in sales. Andrew Weil and Mehmet Oz in health. And Dean Graziosi and Donald Trump in real estate. Of course, these are just a few of the top leaders in a few sample fields. I bet you couldn't name even a handful of up-and-coming people in each of these areas, though, and I think it's time we start to ask, why not? This question has led me to ask many of the people I just mentioned how they built their businesses so that we could share that information with future experts. Indeed, many of the people I listed have spoken at Experts Academy, revealing exactly how they did it, including Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, David Bach, and John Gray. What's fascinating in the case of Tony, David, and John is that each of them was actually shocked when I first asked them to reveal how they built their multi-million-dollar empires. Not talk about their content or their training, but how they built the business. They each had to create an entirely new presentation they never before delivered, despite the fact they've all been training 2 or more decades. It turns out that no one had ever asked them to speak about how they built their expert business specifically. What was more extraordinary was that most gurus don't even think that people are all that interested in learning how to step in their shoes. I personally don't think Wayne Dyer or Tony Robbins ever knew how many people wanted to have a career like theirs until recently. The person introducing me at Tony's famous Unleash the Power Within stage asked this question: how many of you would love to have a career like Tony's and help people with your advice and motivation? Almost every hand in the room went up. There were over 2,000 people there. To a degree, everyone who follows us sees us within him or herself and may want to be us. Another issue is that many experts feel we are so unique that nobody can do what we do. This, of course, is true. Nobody on earth is like Tony Robbins, or like you, or like me. But remember, Tony started his business as a young kid who was washing his dishes in a bathtub because his tiny apartment didn't even have a working kitchen sink. He had no certification or formal education that allowed him to do what he does. As Tony likes to say, he had no formal education, but he had a PhD in results. Clearly, no one can be Tony Robbins. He's a legend and he has his own orbit. I admire him deeply, count him as a friend and mentor, and think he's irreplaceable. But what he has learned about business can be taught, duplicated, and improved upon. Starting and sustaining an expert business is a replicable practice, and more newcomers could sustain their businesses if more legends shared their lessons learned. I honor Tony and all the legends who have shared their insights at Experts Academy and who will be sharing their insights at Experts Industry Association. We need more people doing this all across the industry and through multiple vehicles so that we can build the bench. I'm doing my part as best I can. I issue free videos all the time to my list subscribers. I point them to other experts doing great things. I'm standing here now talking to you, and I host Experts Academy and the Experts Industry Association. In addition, more than 100 mentees are in my Empire Group Mastermind and are receiving my coaching and training at a deep level so that they can go out and get their own message out on a grander scale. Other industries understand this concept. Everyone knows that no one can replace Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, or Bill Gates, but all three of those gentlemen are working very hard to train the next generation to step into their huge shoes. We must do the same. I think we can learn a lot from both the corporate space and the hip-hop community. Yes, hip-hop. That community does a great job of honoring its legends. When you hear Jay-Z speak about rap, it's like a history lesson. But as much as he and other leaders honor its pioneers, they also disdain knockoffs and constantly look for and celebrate new talent. It's actually quite remarkable. In one interview, Jay-Z was asked about the new crop of rappers, and he immediately named 10 or more up-and-coming rappers with ease. That would be almost impossible in our industry. I know this was a long, roundabout way of saying we need to get together, share what we have learned, and groom a new generation of leaders. But because of the attention that falls upon me as founder of Experts Academy and the Expert Industry Association, I had to take the opportunity to share the history and rationale. I'll move more swiftly through the rest of the resets here. Reset number 2, renewed focus on innovation and distinction. The expert world is full of copycats. They are about to get a rude awakening and quickly be swept aside by a new generation of content creators. While the last 3 decades were very kind to our industry, a slew of would-be experts grew up trying to emulate the legends. This has led to a community that steals its own stories, quotes the same passages, fails to create new content, and rests on the laurels of legends. Few are reinventing the game, and that's got to change. As an example of this problem, there is nothing sadder to me than speakers who still use the acronym FEAR, F-E-A-R. This is a common acronym for discussing fear, false evidence appearing real. It's been used for over 30 years, and you still hear it all the time. It's abysmal. Another example, trainers who use the starfish story. It's a great story, but wildly overused. If you haven't heard it, in some kid throws starfish back into the ocean. Old man says, "There's so many starfish on the beach. Why even bother? It doesn't even make a difference," he says. The kid throws another starfish in the ocean and says, "Made a difference to that one." This story has been attributed to Lauren Isley. Another, the cathedral story. Man asks laborers, "What are they doing?" And one says, "I'm busting rocks, earning a living." While the other person who has more vision says, "We are building a cathedral." Yuck. It's like, this is not a judgment of these stories. They're great. Instead, it's a blasting denunciation of the unimaginative copycat experts who lack the care of their craft and career to create and share new stories, metaphors, and examples. Our industry has gotten a bad rap for being repetitive, unimaginative, and soft simply because we're not innovating and creating enough new ideas. I believe I echo all the top leaders of our community when I say collectively, shame on us. Beyond recycling old stories, many have also failed to create new value in quite some time. We must never become a staple industry like the t-shirt and socks industry. We want to be Apple, releasing new, relevant, and pioneering ideas and products that move our industry forward. While many reasonably argue that Apple releases too many new shiny things, I have no idea how many versions of the iPod I own. The point should not be lost. We cannot rest on products and programs that sold well 5 years ago. I remember sitting in San Diego with a top female trainer after she had just returned from a seminar that she had first attended 20 years prior from some other guru. Her disgust inspired me to write this particular reset. She said, "Brendan, that seminar hasn't changed in 20 years. The person conducting that event hasn't grown or learned anything new in 2 decades? Worse," she continued, "is that no one has pushed that guru to change because they follow like lemmings and they're scared to say, hey, evolve." There are very, very few products and programs that can stand the test of time. And even if they could stand the test of time, the creator of such a program owes it to his or her audience to deliver new value and information. It would be a disservice to put out a blockbuster program and then stop. Customers want and deserve mastery, and that's not done with one program. I get a lot of criticism for these arguments. Many people object to this idea by pointing out that many books, for example, are timeless, like those in the self-help genre. Personal growth concepts are always relevant in some way, they say. And I agree. Books like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Alchemist, and thousands more are awesome and will always be awesome. Although even many of those books have been revised. But my point is not that we should toss out the old. Rather, we simply don't have to keep rehashing old ground. We have to challenge ourselves to continue delivering new ideas, distinct stories and perspectives, and cutting-edge information in new products and programs on a continual basis. This can be difficult work, I know, and sometimes new ground is hard to come by. It's also very common for new experts to cover old ground without knowing they're covering old ground. As they say, there's nothing new under the sun, and nothing new has been said since Adam. We all have to be comfortable with the fact that so much has already been said in this industry that our teaching may have been taught in some way before. If you ever get called out on this, either apologize for it, say, "Wow, thank you, I didn't know someone else had done that or said that before," or address it and explain your points of distinction. "Yes, I've heard someone has taught this before, but here's how I'm doing it differently and how I'm unique." This reality hit me very close to home when I began. As you'll recall, My car accident had inspired me to think about my life and ask, did I live fully? Did I love openly? Did I matter? I had been sharing those questions rather broadly, probably for about 3 or 4 years. Then one day after a speech, a mentor of mine told me that Norman Cousins had asked very similar questions decades before me. Cousins, whose work I've come to admire tremendously, but at that point had never even heard of, found that people do indeed ask such things when evaluating their lives. Cousins wrote, "The great tragedy is not death. It's what we allow to die inside of us while we live." When you are on your deathbed, you're not thinking about how much money you have or how much you have accomplished. The questions people generally ask on their deathbeds are: 1. Have I lived wisely? 2. Have I loved well? 3. Have I served greatly? You might think I was horrified to discover these similarities. Instead, reading Cousins' passage became one of the most validating moments of my life. I was so happy to find out that I was not the only one to believe these things. It made me feel connected to our universal values and experiences as a human being. It proved to me that what I knew to be true was true for others. That said, I had to quickly begin explaining my perspective in my work to avoid any future issues. I recently found a speech transcript in my personal archives that showed me addressing this way back in 1999, far before I would become known for my 3 questions with the launch of my book, Life's Golden Ticket, in 2007. While it's a rather long passage, I thought including it here might help to show you how you can openly and honestly address any similarities your life's message might have with others' work. The truth is that we all have common human experiences, and when sharing our life's message, we will often overlap. But even if it has all been said, what is new is our own unique experience of learning our own lessons, even if they're universal lessons, getting our own results, and creating new value for people. I hope this transcript that I'll read here reminds you of that. From the archives. As I've been sharing since my car accident, which was the most important and yet terrifying moment in my life, I discovered a lot about myself and the world back then. When I was recovering, I kept thinking about all that had happened. I still to this day remember those last moments of the turn, life about to disappear, and learning how important life was. I came to realize we'll all ask if we lived fully, loved openly, and made a difference, because in that experience I wondered about whether or not I was adventurous enough, or if I really connected enough, or if I had lived for something and others outside of myself. The sad truth is I hated the answers to those questions. I was just a young directionless kid who didn't know any better until I crashed into life's greatest lessons. Since then, I volunteered at hospices, and I've seen so many people struggle with the same questions at the end. Did I live fully? Did I love openly? Did I matter? I think it's good to know those are the questions we may seek to answer at the end, because then we can live our lives so we'll be happy with the answers to them. These questions are not just my unique findings. Last year, a friend of mine showed me a passage from Norman Cousins, and it meant so much to me. It was validating and amazing all at once. It turns out Cousins had written long before me that people on their deathbeds ask, have I lived wisely? Have I loved well? Have I served greatly? It was just so amazing that I crashed into a lesson that others had found to be true. In fact, if you know any hospice worker or end-of-life counselor or doctor, they will all say pretty much the same thing. Yep, people reflect on their life, and they wonder if they really lived, and they wonder who they loved, and they wonder what impact they had. It's a universal thing, so I'm not seeking credit for it in any way. Certainly generations of people discovered this before Cousins or I or anyone ever wrote about it. I just hope to share my unique story and perspective. The only thing that may be unique about my 3 questions comes down to word choice, I suppose. Cousins asked if we lived, quote, wisely, unquote. But I wondered a different question, if we lived fully. It's subtle but important to me, at least in how I live. I want to live vibrantly and burst across the planet like a firework and make foolhardy decisions and have adventure. But who am I? just some young punk kid, because Cousins said living wisely, and Buddha used the same phrase when he said, even death is not to be feared by one who has lived wisely. Cousins also talked about loving well, but I was probably too damn young to know what that meant when I forged my 3 questions. To me, loving openly was my word choice because I'd been so closed off from love as a young man after the breakup with the first woman I ever loved. It seems to me that whenever love goes wrong, it has a lot to do with how open we really were. Anyway, the last word choice was important for me, I guess, at a time, and says a lot about what I try to do now. Cousins talked about whether or not we served greatly, which I think is such a great phrase, served greatly. I guess when I crashed into reality, I ended up thinking about it differently as a young man. I didn't think about serving greatly, though like I said, I like that, because I didn't ever think I could make a great difference. To me, I think many people don't think they can change millions of lives or do great and grand things that change the world. Some just want to make a difference with one person, and perhaps they don't consider that a grand or great thing, which is too bad. We don't have to change the world. We just have to change somebody's world, is something I heard once. So I simply ask, did I matter? Not did I do something great? Maybe it's just a small thing. Did I matter? That's what I ask. Of course, this is all just silly semantics, but it really meant a lot to me when I found that my accident and my experiences in hospices led me to similar conclusions that others had drawn. It helped me realize we were all on the same journey of life discovering similar things. I hope we all try to share those similar findings, even if they are worded a little differently or even if it's from our own perspective. It turns out living and loving and doing good are universal values we all find important, and I hope it helps sharing a little with you today about those values. The takeaway of this section is this: be distinct. Share your own stories and create your own content. Continually create new value that wows people. That's what will elevate our reputations and our revenues in this industry. If for any reason your work ends up being similar to others, which will of course happen, address it. But do understand that teaching points can be similar in nature because of our universal emotions and experiences, but our training products and programs should be very unique to our brands. Does that make sense? Reset number 3, better branding. Ever go to a seminar and get a crappy binder full of resources that seem to be photocopies of photocopies of photocopies? Ever receive in the mail a chintzy self-published book that looked like it was designed by a gorilla? Or ever go to a guru's website only to see a postcard-like site that seemed circa 1995? I've asked these questions of audiences from around the world, and they all laugh and raise their hands in acknowledgement. It's funny, but tragic. It's vital that as a community, we start making our websites, products, and programs look better. Like Apple did to the personal computer and mobile device, we must upgrade our industry's overall aesthetic and design. We need to be cognizant of the massive shift our society has experienced from function to form, from buying bland to buying creative, customized, and colorful. The world does not like crap or clutter, right? And we, as a group of professionals, are often guilty of creating websites full of both. To put it bluntly, our industry needs a facelift. As an observer, I see 3 key areas that require a makeover pronto. First, we have to refresh our websites to be more contemporary and interactive, which now means video-driven blogs with comment sections. We also need to make our membership sites look like they were worth people's time and money. People should enjoy and be proud of being part of our online communities. When's the last time you had someone feel that way? Second, we must start to make our shipped products look retail ready. The DVD home study programs, audio programs, binders, worksheets, and resources mailed out in this industry are abysmal. This is almost entirely across the board, except for the top 2%. Believe me, I'm not a design snob, and I'm not about spending too much money on graphic designers. I understand there's still a core group of marketers teaching people to get it done fast, get it done cheap, get it out the door now. I also know that many customers don't care what our information looks like. They just want the content and knowledge, and they don't care about the vessel. All the objections to making our products look better actually make sense in a silo world. If we can stretch our field of influence to understand that we are a community with real careers and a real industry, we can understand that our community has a singular reputation. Unfortunately, crappy-looking products are like a ripple effect in a pond and affect the entire aesthetic of who we are. If we all step up and make our products look good, we can all enjoy the benefits of a more appreciative, impressed, and happier customer base. Finally, we desperately need to make over our approach to doing live events and seminars. With the exception of perhaps 5 to 10 brands, the industry is still hosting seminars, workshops, and conferences in cheaper airport hotels with dim lighting, poor ventilation, and uncomfortable chairs. Worse, promoters are barely spending any money on lighting, sound, branding, and materials. It's a disgrace, and it would never happen in the best of the corporate world. Believe me, I know that it can hurt to spend a little more on these things. I do over 12 live events a year and now spend millions making them run well. And I understand that customers want promoters to get low room rates for them at travel-friendly and accessible hotels. But it doesn't cost a lot more to find a great hotel, to put up a few well-designed banners, to hire some good AV guys, and to deliver nicely printed and bound seminar materials. This is perhaps more detailed than people would imagine I should go into in a book like this, but we all have to relearn the phrase, details matter. Whether you're holding a free seminar or a high-fee seminar, your job is to make the learning environment look and feel incredible. We owe it to ourselves, and we certainly owe it to our customers. These 3 resets are powerful. When we move from an industry stuck in its own silos to a best practice sharing and bench building community, we all win. When we deliver creative, innovative, and distinct content and programs, we all elevate our game. And when we refresh our look and branding to be more clean and contemporary, we repair the cheap reputation we've been pinned with. We can do better. It's our time to look at ourselves as a singular industry with a singular reputation that we can all affect and improve. The change must start within. The revolution and reset is already at hand. Join us. The outward reset. The previous 3 resets focused on what we must do internally to improve our industry and reputation. The next 3 are actions we can take with our customers to continue the momentum. Reset number 4, transition from sales communication to value communication. A curious thing happened in list management over the last 5 years. Gurus began mailing coupons to their lists following corporate America's ineffective and poor choice at electronic marketing and communication. They also made a decision along the way that they would either send content-only newsletters or sales messages. This was just bizarre. As I write this and speak to you now, we are now caught in a moment when many experts are sending out too many sales-only emails. They don't send emails with value anymore, just links to sales pages or sales funnels. In my opinion, this must change, and it must change now. The reset in the industry will finally achieve balance between sales and value by combining them instead of forcing an either-or decision. If you are one of my subscribers, you know that almost every email I send out adds major value, even if I'm promoting someone else's product or offering a sale of my own. For example, I recently promoted a friend's informational course on social media. Almost everyone promoting the same course simply sent an email to their subscribers that in effect said, "There's an awesome new course, click here to buy it." There was no value offered, and thus their emails were what I call sales-only communication. I designed a different approach. I sat and thought about my customer and what I was doing in social media that was working well. Then I went into my video studio and shot an informational video explaining my best social media strategy. At the end of the video, I essentially said the following: I hope that serves you in your own business. If you would like more training on social media, I'm not really the expert, but you can click the link below this video to learn more about my friend's new training on social media. I think you'll really enjoy it a lot. If you happen to enroll in his course, I'll give you 2 of my training courses as congratulations. My 2 courses really complement his, so you'll be getting twice the value. So I added value by doing what experts do. Teach. I taught my subscribers something useful, and whether or not they bought my friend's program, they still learned something. So no one was upset and no one was put off. Does this take a little more effort? Of course it does. But it keeps me in good standing with my list because it does what I promised them, which is to add value to their lives. The result was that I was the #1 promoter of that course and made over $200,000 in affiliate commissions. Affiliate commissions means that I was paid a percentage of the sale when people signed up for my friend's course through my link, which I disclosed clearly to people in my video and on the page where my video was hosted. This example illustrates that we do not have to choose between adding value and selling, and I think it's important that the community starts doing this. Most of the successful gurus out there, including those in the online marketing world, are already leading the way and have been for a while. Now, everyone else should follow. In the sales arena, I also think it would be helpful if our community became more thoughtful in strategically planning our communications and promotional calendars. It turns out most experts don't actually have a promotional calendar planned out. Instead, they end up at the end of the month realizing, oh, I guess I'd better send out a monthly newsletter today and keep in touch. I better figure out a topic to write about or something to sell. This is just bad practice and bad business. I suppose I've been very blessed to consult with many of the world's best retailers and have some perspective in this area. I remember speaking with brand managers at Nordstrom and Best Buy and being blown away at how far in advance they plan their promotional calendar and product releases. Retailers know what they're doing, not just the next couple of months, but the next couple of seasons and quarters. We need to learn that skill and be more diligent about planning how and when we will add value and make sales. Finally, as a last point on sales, I believe our entire community would breathe a sigh of relief if we all notified each other sooner about our upcoming promotions. I cannot tell you how many emails I get that say, tomorrow we're launching our new X. Please promote for me. Let's all give each other several months of notice on what we're doing and put forever to sleep the last minute monster. With sales out of the way, let's talk about value. What constitutes value in the how-to world has evolved over the decades. No longer is a newsletter article sufficient to keep an audience engaged and served. Most customers tell me that the value to them means that they receive actual content and implementable ideas that they can act on right away. Sending people funny videos or short overview articles or blog posts is not value, it's distraction. To serve your customers the best, think about what their goals are and send out useful training that helps them move from point A to point B. Give them a simple to implement idea, but also give the bigger picture and process. Ask yourself, if I receive this communication, would I find it valuable personally and professionally? And would I be able to do something new and important after seeing it? Again, I understand all this takes work, but it's what we were born to do anyway, to teach, and it serves the customer. Reset number 5, achieving customer service excellence. Everything I've mentioned so far will do little to improve our industry reputation if at the same time we don't improve our customer service approach across the board. Bad customer service has become the expectation of customers, and because of this, fewer customers buy. And frankly, many have started to send jaded, aggressive, and flippant messages to get what they want. A friend of mine recently said, too many of the new customers in our industry act like skeptical jerks, and it's our own fault. Since day one, I've been extremely, if not obsessively, focused on customer service. We have always ensured that we respond to people at least the same business day we receive a call or email from a customer. We often reply within the hour, except during heavy promotional periods when we may be briefly overwhelmed. We make our trial, return, and refund policies clear in our videos, on our checkout pages, and in our terms and conditions for every product and program we release. To be fully transparent, I did get this wrong during one promotion once when we were not clear enough about our refund policy, and it created unneeded angst and hassles later on, though we served all of our customers. You often learn customer service the hard way in this industry. But in general, I would say we have a very strong and positive reputation for customer service. Unfortunately, that means very little these days. Yes, you heard me say it. Having a great customer service reputation does not mean as much as you would think it would in this industry. Now, before I get critical email for saying a good reputation is not important, let me explain why I say that. Two realities about the greater context of doing business as an expert will serve you here. First, most of your sales on any given promotion these days come from buyers who have never heard of you, especially when you start out. I'm fairly well known, but a full 72% of the buyers of my last promotion had never heard of me. People who come into your sales funnel are often brand new prospects who have never heard of you and know nothing about your reputation. Because the expert community is not active in Yelp or other customer evaluation-oriented websites, yes, this will change too, there is really not much information out there about the personalities, brands, and companies in our industry. It's odd because other industries are so driven by community product reviews, but ours are not. Second, because most people who buy from you have never heard of you, they default to their preconditioned assumptions about the industry as a whole. That's a horrible thing. I say this because historically gurus have been so ego-driven or adored by forgiving fans that they never simply focused on customer service as a business practice, though obviously the top ones have. It turns out rock stars and celebrities too have abysmal customer service for the same reasons. Because of this tragic track record with customer service, we all lose. Personally, I'm tired of getting customers who call or email us in advance of buying who are jaded, rude, skeptical, or needlessly challenging with their questions. This is so crazy because we probably have one of the best reputations in the expert community. We deliver what we promise and more. We are responsive. We deeply care about our clients' success. And if anything, we over-communicate our terms and conditions. Still, here's an unedited email we received during my last promotion. Hey, I think I like your stuff, and I think I'm going to buy it. But I need more convincing you guys aren't like the other guys in this industry who rip us off and lie about refunds and guarantees. If I don't like your stuff, I want to know if I can return it right that blank away. Otherwise, I'm not going to buy this blank. So let me know, are you guys honorable or thieves like everyone else? Doesn't that speak volumes about the preconditioned assumptions this person has about the expert community? You have to understand that most people approach the guru industry with this level of energy and caution these days. Gurus and experts in all industries have gotten a bad reputation in the last few years, and it's tragic. That's not anyone else's fault, but those in the community who spoil it for the rest of us. With that said, I want to emphasize the fact that I don't think most experts out there are bad business people or acting without integrity or with any malice towards their customers. I strongly believe that almost to a person, our community is made of deeply caring and committed experts. It's just that a few bad do taint the picture of all of us. And while most everyone in our community is good and caring, they are in fact extremely busy and creative people who are running small businesses from home. This leads me to conclude that it's distraction and lack of resources and time that has led to our industry's bad customer service reputation. The good news is that this can all be easily and swiftly corrected if we all decide to flip the switch and reset our compass to focus on our customers as much after they buy as before they buy. At a financial level, we should all remind ourselves that the lifetime value of a customer is worth ensuring that they are happy, cared for, and well served. Besides doing my small part in this reset, practicing what we preach, we've also committed our team to ensure that the Experts Industry Association recognizes and celebrates brands known for excellent customer service. Reset number 6. Honor more, expect more. In the late 1980s, there was a subtle but distinct shift in the tone coming from the expert industry, and it was not a good one. Gobbled up by the greed is good Wall Street mantra and the time period celebrations of shock jocks and heroic CEOs, we went astray. Many self-help gurus and experts in every field started 2 poor practices. First, and this upsets me greatly, experts started speaking and writing in a tonality smacking of condescension to their clients. Gone were the honoring tones of experts and writers of the past. Replacing them was the boot camp guru, the harsh-talking, in-your-face expert who was clearly much more attuned to your problems and reality than you were. In fact, these types of gurus, to them, your whole life is out of whack. You're sleepwalking through your life. You do not know how bad your unconscious is derailing everything you do. You are screwing up your relationships, your job, and you're tossing away your future. Oh, and you're lazy and stupid, and no one loves you because of it. While this may sound exaggerated, the most extraordinary reality is that people were basically saying this garbage. It still happens today. Pick up a self-help book, and it seems as if it were written for complete losers who have lost all control of their life. Authors in that space started writing for and speaking to the lowest common denominator. It's like the whole industry started sounding like that horribly screeching, condescending phrase Dr. Phil became famous for. What were you thinking? Insert dummy here, and you've got the sound. For the record, I like Dr. Phil's work, his books especially, and I think he's helped millions of people. I also think it's obvious that he uses that phrase with a sense of tease and humor that makes it palpable sometimes, and that he truly and genuinely cares for his clients and audience. But you get the point. Experts became very condescending and started writing and training as if they were advising either children or the most severely out of touch or maladjusted among us. It's time for a new tone. It's time for us to honor our audience more. Let's assume people are doing their best, not their worst. That they are capable, not incapable, and that they are pretty tuned in since they did reach out to us for advice in the first place. Personally, I do not think that people are out of touch or sleepwalking through their lives. Like all of us, people are very aware of their problems and their reality, and they're just looking for some inspiration and instruction to reach the next level. I have a great respect and admiration for my clients and my audience and for you listening to me right now. And I speak to them and you as my peers, not as some guru or camp counselor or drill sergeant. Of course, at this point, it's common for people to say, yeah, Brendan, well, that all sounds good, but come on, man. You and I both know the media rewards shock jocks and shock and awe and the drill sergeant over the quiet servant. I sadly agree. But I also think we get to choose what kind of games we will play in life in order to be rewarded and recognized. Personally, I don't think it's worth my being someone else or bullying someone just to get their attention or get the media's attention. Let's start believing in our customers and looking at them with as much admiration as they do us. By honoring our audience once again, we will bring a reputation of honor back to our industry. Next, as much as we honor them, let's also begin expecting more out of our fans, followers, and customers. Clearly, this chapter has been about expecting more out of ourselves as leading experts. But I want to emphasize here to be about expecting more out of our audience. I haven't been able to place my finger on exactly when it started happening. My research and interviews point to the mid-1990s, but it's not definitive. But there was a shift in our industry when suddenly it became okay and casually well known that our customers were not implementing what we teach them. Suddenly, there was a laissez-faire attitude about the results our clients get when implementing our advice, ideas, strategies, processes, systems, and so on. Well, I can't control whether or not they implement my training, so oh well, went the attitude. That attitude is so pervasive today that it has created an entire generation of experts who do little to set expectations, challenges, accountability systems, or follow-up programs with customers. In turn, our industry's clients are not implementing and getting results, which in turn hurts our reputation again. It's time for a reset here as well. I don't pretend to have all the answers, and like everyone else, I want more of my clients to actually use and implement my programs. Like everyone, I'd be happy if more of our customers would even open the book or the DVDs they ordered. In all seriousness, We can all start the reset immediately by changing our tone and verbiage with our clients. We can begin telling them directly that we only want serious students and that we expect them to take action. Sometimes just having someone tell us that we can raise our standards can be an impetus to actually change. We can instill the desire and challenge with them without being drill sergeants. All we have to do is be greater inspirations and enable our customers with more tools, goals, and follow-up communications. We can say things like the following, and not do it for marketing, but do it because it's true. Look, if you're like many of us, there are too few people in your life who are holding you to an elevated standard of excellence. People want to protect you and keep you safe, and they make it okay not to push yourself further and harder. But our paths have intersected because you believe you are capable of more, much more, and you are looking for new ways to reach your highest potential in this area. So let's make a deal, you and I. If you're a person who genuinely wants to succeed at this, and you're truly willing to implement what I teach, then let's begin. But our industry is full enough of tire kickers and fly-by-night gurus who just sell and run. So let's make a deal. You implement this stuff, and I will follow up with you with a reminder series from our system. We need more doers, and if that's you, then let's begin. But if you feel like just trying my stuff out and dabbling in this area, then perhaps you should browse my blog, but not become a dedicated student. I'm setting high standards for my students, and I expect you to have a high standard if you become one. Perhaps that's kind of hokey what I just said there, and not the best argument or marketing strategy. It's easier to say, hey, just buy my stuff and we'll see if it fits you. But I feel it's important that our programs inspire people to set a high standard and implement our ideas. I feel change often happens when we communicate differently to the marketplace, so this is an easy area to make a change. Personally, I do my best to give my clients a very hard time if they don't do what they said they would, but I do it in an honoring way. I hold high expectations for them and for myself. I try to give my customers the checklists, samples, and resources needed to take action. I can do better at this, though. I think we all can. Today's the day. We must all begin. A tribute. I'm keenly aware that in writing a chapter and speaking to you now, that I run the risk of sounding negative and overly judgmental about our expert community. I will likely be harpooned on a few blogs for being too audacious or big-headed in making these assertions. My goal here, though, was not to be negative or come across as flippant. I know I'm just a bit player on the historical stage of this industry, and I didn't write this chapter for self-aggrandizement or to point fingers. My goal was to take full advantage of this platform to help you lead this industry. And to lead, we all must be transparent about where we are and how we can improve. Until we point out what's not working, we cannot fully serve our customers or advance our careers or community. With that said, there's a lot that is right in our industry. Our work changes people's lives for the better, and that is extraordinary. Our community is the most creative, brilliant, thoughtful, and caring of any that I've witnessed. I would happily challenge anyone to find another industry that has helped as many people live fuller, richer, happier, and more meaningful lives than ours has. I hope that you sense my joy, appreciation, and excitement for having the opportunity to have a career as an expert. This industry radically changed my life, and it's changed millions of lives before me. Now it's time to continue the good work of those who came before us and at the same time elevate our industry to the next level. I hope you will join us. Chapter 10, Trusting Your Voice. We've come a long way. If I've successfully fulfilled the expert mission, then I hope you felt inspired and instructed on how you can improve your life. You can make a difference and an income with what you know. Your advice and your life experience are more valuable than you've ever imagined. You can have a real career as an entrepreneurial expert if you simply position, package, promote, and partner with others to get your message out there. You can do this. Now is your time. When you begin reaching millions of people and making millions of dollars, then you will become a true millionaire messenger. Even if you never reach that level, sharing your message with any size audience will always be a meaningful act and a true path to purpose and fulfillment in life. There is meaning in mentoring others and satisfaction in serving. If you've listened this far, then you